Welcome back to another episode of Mystery Tales from the Heart of India. Picture this: a moonless night in rural North India, where mist clings to village lanes and shadows dance between ancient banyan trees. A solitary traveler walks down a deserted path when he encounters a beautiful woman in white, her hair cascading like midnight silk, asking for help with tears glistening in her eyes. But as she turns to walk away, he glimpses something that chills his blood. Her feet are facing backward, her toes pointing in the opposite direction of her movement. This is no mortal woman, but a Churel. It's one of India's most terrifying supernatural entities, a phantom vampire born from tragedy, justice, and an eternal thirst for revenge. Welcome to the haunting world of Churel ghost lore, where female spirits transcend death to become both monster and metaphor, embodying centuries of patriarchal violence, while wielding supernatural power that makes even the bravest men flee in terror. The legend of the Churel stretches back over a millennium, with its roots tracing to ancient Persia before spreading across the Indian subcontinent. In Persian mythology, she was the spirit of a woman who died with grossly unsatisfied desires. But as the legend crossed borders, it evolved into something more sinister. The Churel became the vengeful ghosts of women who met traumatic deaths, those who died during childbirth, while pregnant, or at the hands of domestic violence, abandonment, or family cruelty. She represents the collective trauma of countless women whose lives were cut short by systemic injustice, returning from beyond the grave to exact a terrible price. Known by different names across the subcontinent: Churel in Hindi and Urdu, Churel in rural dialects, Petni in Bengal, Pichelperi in Punjab, this spectral figure maintains remarkable consistency in her essential characteristics. She is invariably described as a woman of ethereal beauty, capable of shape-shifting to lure unsuspecting victims, particularly men, to their doom. But her most distinctive feature is her backward-facing feet, with toes pointing toward her spine, a physical impossibility that serves as both warning and symbol. The backward feet serve a diabolical purpose. When travelers encounter her footprints on dusty paths, they instinctively follow them, believing they lead away from danger, not realizing they're walking directly toward the source, to the Churel's trap. This reversed anatomy represents her fundamental inversion from humanity, marking her as a being outside natural law, death having twisted not just her spirit, but her very physical form. The typical Churel encounter follows a terrifyingly predictable pattern. She appears during dark hours between midnight and dawn, materializing in lonely places, crossroads, abandoned houses, dense forests, or desolate highways. Initially presenting herself as a vulnerable woman in distress, often dressed in white with long unbound hair covering her face, she approaches solitary male travelers with requests for help. Her voice is described as hauntingly melodious, capable of inducing an almost hypnotic trance. Once she lures her victim to an isolated location, the Churel reveals her true nature. Her beautiful facade melts away to expose a hideous visage, sunken, glowing eyes, a mouth that stretches impossibly wide, long, sharp nails like talons, and sagging breasts that reach her knees. Most horrifying are those backward feet, making a distinctive scraping sound as she moves. In this monstrous form, she either kills victims outright or drains their life force, leaving them aged, weakened, or mad. The transformation process from woman to Churel is particularly chilling in its cultural specificity. According to traditional beliefs, the moment of death must occur during a state of ritual impurity or extreme emotional distress. Women who die screaming in agony during difficult childbirths, those who perish from postpartum complications while still bleeding, or victims of honor killings who die cursing their murderers, are considered prime candidates for Churel transformation. The intensity of their final moments, filled with pain, betrayal, and unfulfilled desires, binds their spirits to the mortal realm with supernatural strength. Village elders often recount specific warning signs that indicate a recently deceased woman might return as a Churel. If strange sounds emanate from the burial ground within days of the funeral, if animals refuse to approach the gravesite, or if the deceased appears in dreams of multiple family members simultaneously, immediate protective measures must be taken. Some communities perform elaborate exorcism rituals involving local shamans or religious figures, attempting to convince the restless spirit to move on to the afterlife peacefully before she fully transforms into something monstrous. The Churel's preferred targets reveal much about the social dynamics that created her legend. While she may randomly attack any man, her primary focus is on male relatives who wronged her in life, abusive husbands, cruel in-laws, or family members who failed to protect her. Some versions describe her methodically working through male relatives, ensuring those who caused her suffering pay the ultimate price. This vengeful specificity transforms her from random supernatural threat into an agent of cosmic justice. Documented accounts from British colonial administrators in the 19th century reveal the profound impact Churel beliefs had on daily life in rural India. District magistrates reported entire villages abandoning certain roads or pathways where Churel sightings had been reported. Construction projects sometimes ground to a halt when workers refused to continue building in areas associated with restless female spirits. Even today, highway development projects in remote areas occasionally face similar resistance from local communities who fear disturbing ancient burial grounds where Churels might reside. Regional variations add fascinating complexity. In Punjab, the Pichel Peri roams mountain paths targeting shepherds and lone travelers. Her appearance is often preceded by the sound of tinkling jewelry or the scent of jasmine flowers carried on impossible winds. Bengali folklore describes the Petni as drawn to fishermen, appearing on riverbanks to lure them into deep waters. In West Bengal, she is sometimes depicted with green skin and webbed fingers, reflecting the region's riverine geography. Himalayan regions tell of flying Churels who swoop down from trees to snatch victims, their calls echoing through mountain valleys like the cries of unknown birds. Some traditions claim Churels can multiply, with one spirit splitting into several identical forms to overwhelm prey. This multiplication ability often manifests during village festivals or wedding celebrations. When the Churel appears simultaneously to multiple witnesses in different locations, creating mass panic and confusion. These incidents typically occur during moments of communal joy and prosperity, as if the Churel's presence serves to remind communities of their unresolved injustices and forgotten victims. Creating a Churel involves specific circumstances deeply embedded in South Asian beliefs about purity and proper death rites. Women who die during childbirth are particularly vulnerable because they die in ritual impurity. Those dying while menstruating, during pregnancy, or from suicide are considered spiritually unclean, preventing souls from finding peace. Violent death, especially at family hands, binds spirits to earthly realms through unresolved anger. The most terrifying aspect of Churel encounters, according to survivors' testimonies, is not her monstrous appearance, but the moment of recognition, when victims realize that the beautiful woman who approached them is someone they knew in life. Village records document cases where men claim to have encountered deceased wives. Sisters or daughters transformed into Churels, creating psychological trauma that lasted for generations. These personal encounters force communities to confront their complicity in the original tragedies that created these vengeful spirits. Preventing transformation requires elaborate protective rituals. Corpses may be buried face down or positioned with feet bound together. Sacred objects like iron nails, mustard seeds, or chili peppers are scattered around graves to create spiritual barriers. In some regions, the deceased woman's jewelry is removed and buried separately to prevent her from using these items to enhance her supernatural allure. The most extreme prevention methods involve dismemberment or piercing the corpse with iron stakes. Though these practices are increasingly rare in modern times, the living protect themselves through various means passed down through generations. Travelers carry iron objects, wear religious amulets, or travel in groups. Specific plants like neem leaves or garlic are believed to repel supernatural entities. Perhaps most importantly, people are taught to examine the feet of any lone woman encountered at night before offering assistance. Some communities maintain that reciting specific prayers or mantras can dispel a Churel's illusions, forcing her to reveal her true form before she can complete her deadly seduction. The psychological dimensions of the Churel legend reveal its function beyond supernatural entertainment. Feminist scholars note how the Churel represents both women's victimization and potential resistance against patriarchal oppression. Her tragic origin highlights real social problems, maternal mortality, domestic violence, women's vulnerability, while her supernatural transformation provides fantasy empowerment, where victims strike back against oppressors. Modern India has seen fascinating adaptations across media platforms. Bollywood films like Bol 2020 reimagined the traditional story, presenting the Churel as feminist avenger rather than mere monster. The film's protagonist transforms into a Churel-like being after experiencing brutal domestic violence, reclaiming the narrative as one of empowerment rather than simple horror. Movies like Stree 2018 use Churel-inspired folklore for horror comedies commenting on contemporary gender dynamics. While maintaining the essential elements that make these legends so compelling, television series and literature have relocated the traditional rural Churel to urban settings, appearing on highways and malls or through social media. These modern adaptations often explore how ancient supernatural entities adapt to contemporary environments, suggesting that the underlying social issues that created these legends remain unresolved in modern society. The persistence of Churel beliefs in rural India remains remarkable despite modernization. Anthropological studies document continued sightings across North India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, suggesting the legend serves important psychological and social functions. Reports tend to increase during social stress, providing culturally resonant explanations for misfortune, while maintaining connections to ancestral beliefs. The global South Asian diaspora has carried Churel mythology to new continents, where it adapts to immigrant experiences. Digital platforms have become venues for Churel storytelling, with YouTube channels and podcasts preserving cultural traditions, while creating new narratives that blend traditional folklore with contemporary multicultural experiences. The Churel's backward feet remain the most psychologically compelling aspect, representing fundamental disruption of natural order. In traditional Indian thought, feet represent one's life path and earth connection, so their reversal suggests complete inversion of natural relationships. They embody things not being what they appear, beautiful woman as monster, footprints leading toward rather than away from danger. As India grapples with gender violence and women's rights, the Churel legend finds new relevance as metaphor for female rage and patriarchal oppression consequences. Feminist activists have reclaimed vengeful female spirit imagery to highlight ongoing struggles against domestic violence and discrimination. The Churel's transformation from victim to avenger provides powerful symbolic framework for discussing how society creates the monsters it fears. Today, the legend continues, casting shadows over darkened paths and lonely places. Whether encountered traditionally or in contemporary adaptations, she remains a potent symbol of unresolved trauma, cosmic justice, and the complex relationship between victimhood and vengeance. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this journey into India's most terrifying female spirit captivated you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because next time, we'll explore another supernatural entity from India's rich folklore, where ancient fears meet contemporary anxieties. Until then, stay vigilant on dark paths. Listen carefully to voices calling in the night. Remember, sometimes the most beautiful appearances conceal the most terrible truths.